Well, the more you know, especially in wine, and there's several other topics that it applies to, but the more you know, the more you realize you'll never know it all.
Right.
And actually, there's a huge amount of comfort in that. When you realize that you're not supposed to know it all, and you'll never know it all, then anything you learn is good.
This episode is brought to you by Restaurant Systems Pro. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, Executive VP of Operations at Barter Shake, Matt Snapp. My man, Matt, are you feeling unstoppable today?
No one's gonna stop me today.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop.
I love it, man.
No, I'm out here in the field doing it up.
Dude, I cannot wait to dive into your story. I had a really fantastic conversation with Regan Jasper.
Great.
Badass, dude. And he called you out. And if that guy is calling you out, then no pressure, dude. I just have a really good feeling that this is going to be an awesome conversation. I cannot wait to get into it. But before we dive in, let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
So for the longest time, and I think that a lot of the Foxers out there from my 17 years at Fox, they would all write their own favorite one down, but the one that ended up coming out of my mouth the most often was, it's not mine, and I don't exactly know who it's attributed to, but that amateurs practice until they get it right, and professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. And so that to me says, and right after that question, you look at a young host or a young bartender right in the face, and you go, do you want to be an amateur or do you want to be a professional? Do you want to be an amateur the rest of your life, or do you want people to come in and say this person really knows what the hell they're doing? So amateurs practice until they get it right, and professionals practice until they cannot get it wrong. And then the other one is probably let falling things fall, but that's got some emotional background to it, so we can get into that a little later.
Say that last one again.
Let falling things fall.
Let falling things fall. I'm tempted to get it. We'll unpackage that one later.
You can unpack it now or later. It's your show.
Let's unpackage it now. Let's unpackage.
You want it now?
Yeah, give it to me.
Give it to me. So, the if you're good at what you do and you do it long enough, then you end up wearing a lot of hats. And so some of the hats that we wear, especially in opening, during my tenure at FRC, I opened 95 different locations for Sam across the United States.
Damn.
And teaching people how to take care of one another is a huge thing, but also teaching people how to take care of themselves is kind of a big and important thing. And that's not only taking care of your physical body, but also taking care of like your human body, your spirit, your emotion, your candor, your capabilities, etc. And so Let Falling Things Fall started with, if you are starting to drop a bottle, you let that thing fall. If you're starting to drop a knife, you let that falling thing fall. Like, you don't try to catch the knife, you don't try to catch the bottle. And that physicality portion of it came from February 10th of 2010 when I was stocking Pinot Grigio at one of the locations here in Phoenix. And, like any confident bartender would, I was trying to carry more bottles than my arms allowed me to carry. And so one started to drop, and I ended up catching it at the exact moment it hit the floor.
Ooh. And
so the punt on the wine bottle shot off this way because it went neck first, right? And so the punt goes up this way, and my hand goes right down the side of it.
Sorry,
yeah.
Dude. I should have told you I have a weak stomach.
You do? Okay, we need to get you a bucket.
Oh, God, is there more to the story?
I can cut it off right there, but so there's a scar that when you're feeling less queasy, I'll show you it.
There's no way to stop it. Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
In any case, I hurt myself. We'll just say it like that. Nerve damage and no tendon damage, thank goodness. But
I can feel it, dude. That's the thing.
Just imagine Quentin Tarantino does wine stocking, a la Kill Bill potentially, and then move forward past that. And the lesson that I learned is, you got to let falling things fall. So with one hand, I went and took on a different role, calling new employees and setting things up through payroll and personnel for a couple of weeks while my hand healed. And then, 3 months later, I was back behind the stick slinging, but I was always very careful to let falling things fall. And to this day, I'm scared of broken glass.
Dude,
just terrified of it.
I don't blame you, man.
Like, it'll break and I'll just walk away.
The issue is I'm an empath, so I can't just hear the story. I feel it in my body.
Well, you're lucky I didn't show you the scar then.
Well, I mean, I can kind of handle scars, but is it? Damn, that's a big one, bro. Wow. I can feel women, like the pain of all the women listening to this are gonna go, fuck you, no you can't. But if I see like a lady giving birth, I'm like, my vagina hurts, dude.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it's the weirdest thing. I feel
understand.
Things. Yeah,
yeah.
I can't even get through it. Like,
you're in tune.
Yeah.
Be in tune. Don't ever say no to being in tune.
My wife is going to be disappointed if we have kids because I'm going to be passed out on the floor. Anyway, so great way to get this thing started.
There you go. Knock you off.
Where does it make sense to start sharing your story? Take us back to the beginning, because I did a little bit of research.
Okay.
And it didn't seem like this was always your intended path early on.
No, sir. It was not. And so like most teenagers, as soon as I could drive, I figured out that the guys running Domino's were making the big bucks, man. Sometimes upwards of $5 per delivery.
Pizza delivery was the best job
big
I ever had.
Money. And you could listen to Aerosmith in your 1983 Volkswagen, no problem. You could listen to it loud. You could turn your hat around backwards. You could be the boss of the road in Littleton, Colorado. And so I drove pizzas, like I'd come home, I'd get my homework done, and I'd go and I'd work from like 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. And I'd just kind of cruise around and listen to music and drop off pizzas at people's houses. And for a 17-year-old kid clearing, like $100 a night, 4 nights a week, like I had way more money than I knew what to do with, even at that age. And I was never a fancy person. Even to this day, if I'm not wearing something that somebody gave to me, then I probably shouldn't have spent money on it. But and then after that, I had a passion and a pretty good amount of talent and skill towards creative writing. And so I began to pursue creative writing, as an angsty teenager with poetry. And then I found my favorite medium was kind of literary short fiction. And so I went to ASU to study that. And all the while, I had a long list of odd jobs, whether it was, teaching kids gymnastics or I was the sound engineer for the Arizona Cardinals for a couple of seasons, like the in-stadium, whatever.
All over the place.
It was crazy. But I always found my way back to restaurants and bars, whether it was sweeping peanuts at like at a little barbecue joint in Colorado on my breaks in my summertime, or by 2004, I was 24 years old, and I started serving at an Italian restaurant here in Phoenix called North, and that was when I started my time with Sam Fox and Fox Restaurants. And I quickly, it was the same kind of self-education that I had given. Earlier when I learned that the guys slinging the pizzas were making the big bucks, I watched everybody around me, and the guys that were selling bottles of wine instead of glasses of wine were making the cash.
Yeah.
And so I glommed onto them, and I said, I don't need to know it all. Every day I want to know 3 more things. And that became kind of a bedrock principle in my career and in coaching, is that every day you should learn 3 things. If you didn't learn 3 things, get back up off your ass and go learn 3 things. You lazy. Anyway.
So I saw that you started school in 98. You graduated in 03. You did a year in New York where you kind of got out of Arizona to pursue the creative writing. And I was looking and I was like, okay, then you start your own side hustle doing your creative writing for at least 10 years. And it seems like the restaurant industry was a thing that you were doing to support what
Correct.
you wanted to do.
Yeah. And so historically and hopefully all the way into the future.
Sorry, that was gross.
Bless you.
Yeah.
In most things, I try to be efficient and pragmatic. And so I figured out that you could, I used to make the joke that writer and waiter are only 1 letter different. And so, during the morning time, you get a nice stiff cup of coffee and you work on your writing projects. And then in the nighttime, you throw on your blacks and you serve Montrachet or whatever you need to go, Yeah. And so that moment of knowledge and inspiration, I didn't have to be anywhere. I could write from anywhere that had electricity and a laptop, and I could work anywhere that had a restaurant. And there are restaurants in literally every city in the United States, and then most cities and most countries around the world.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of young people realize that if you're good at what you do in the restaurant industry, you have a ticket to anywhere.
Yeah, it's an open book.
It's like you just need to be told.
That's correct.
Yeah. It's like, why didn't I know that? It's so powerful.
And to be perfectly honest, the only reason that myself and a couple of our friends chose Hawaii specifically was that the tickets were $100 less, and we didn't have to get a visa. And we were drinking martinis late into one evening, and we decided to move to Hawaii. And when we got there, all 3 of us had jobs within about 45 minutes to an hour. They weren't the jobs that we ended up keeping, but at the very least, you had a job so that you could make sure that you were going to have enough money for waffles the next day. And, you know, that translated into like a year and a half of living right near the beach. And, you know, in the morning I'd get up with the LLC, the writing, the freelance copywriting gig, and I would write for Time Warner Telecom. I'd write for USA Swimming. I'd write for, you know, whatever agency they wanted me to jump in and write copy for. And it was, you know, copywriting to me just came pretty easily. Like someone would say, we're selling this. And I'd say, I think you should say this. And they're like, that's great. We're done. And I was like, well, I'm going to bill you for an hour for that though, because I need the hour. And so that went on for, you know, a long time, right up all the way up until, you know, 2010 or 2011 when I needed to make a decision. And that you know, that tipping point was early 2010. I had just ended my time in Vail. I was working in Vail at Latour, and you know, I had the girl that I was dating. We broke up, and I moved back to Phoenix. Didn't have a job. I had a novel sitting on a publisher's desk in New York, and then they called and said they weren't moving forward with it. And so I decided that I would throw myself 100% into restaurants and bars, as opposed to kind of holding back 50-50, because at that point, like, writing had just punched me in the mouth.
Right.
And so I didn't want to, like, go back in and get punched again. And so that was when, you know, and Regan was a good close friend previous to that. And, you know, he sat me down and he said, you know, there's always going to be somebody else behind the bar, but it's important to eventually become the person that teaches the people behind the bar. And so he's credited with and responsible for that first transition in late 2010.
Right. So, I mean, great job just laying that all out. That was probably the most concise. Like, how did you get to the point where you're kind of, not where you spent the majority of your career, but what was, looking back at the younger version of yourself through the lens that you have today as the vice president of this bar, what do you call it?
Barter Shake.
Yeah, but would it be a bar? You guys just do bars. It's not a restaurant.
Yeah,
group,
it's just cocktail entertainment, I suppose.
So cocktail bar,
cocktail bars.
Bar group.
Yeah.
Okay. So what things, again, looking back at yourself, do you look back at and like say, like, you know, this was a challenge in my career, I overcame it, these were points of evolution? Like, what advice do you have for people going through that I guess that climb?
Through that climb, I would say that one of the most important pieces of advice I could give that even I wouldn't have listened to, but I wish I would have. If people are listening to it, then maybe they'll listen to it a little bit more. But it's you don't have to slow down, but you should definitely enjoy what you're doing. You should enjoy it when you're tired. You should enjoy it when you're learning. You should enjoy it when you're confused. You should enjoy it when you're winning. You should enjoy it when you're too busy to go home at Christmas, or too busy to do this or to do that. And you should realize that all of that, a writing professor used to call it the wheel. And he goes, all of that experience goes on the wheel. And later in life, when you need something, then you go back to the wheel and you can spin the wheel and you can get anything off of there. But the people that never amount to much, or the people that never have like impact, don't have anything on their wheel. They've just tried really hard to get to a place, and they don't have any emotion or energy or passion or experience on their wheel.
The supposed to do's.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Oh, I'm supposed to buy a house now.
Checking the
boxes.
boxes.
Do you want a house?
Right.
Do you need a house?
Yeah.
You know, you're living in a truck.
Right.
That's awesome.
It is awesome, dude.
Go for it.
Lie. It's a dream.
Yeah.
You know?
And so you have, I'm not willing to call it like the hollow American dream or the preconceived notion that we're all supposed to do the same things. I'm just saying that whatever you're going to do it because you want to do it. And whatever happens, you need to learn from it and enjoy it, whether it's good or it's bad. You need to put it on the wheel.
Right. And
then later on in life, when you're looking at, hey, I'm going to make a change, or I'm going to make a new start, go to your wheel and say, when was I happy? When was I sad? When was I learning the most? When was I not learning anything? And I think that, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are kind of stuck, I guess, for a lack of a better term, in a job that they think that they can't get out of because it does something for them. It pays their bills, but they're not learning anything. They're not feeling fulfilled. They're not, enriching the lives of those around them. And if they're not doing any of those things, then really what the fuck is the point?
Right. I'm so happy you're saying this as somebody who was literally about to launch a coaching program. And then just before, I had like a really long, and plus the universe was giving me hints. People were saying, is this what you want to do? Like, is this like,
are you sure?
Yeah. But I spent $6,000 on a coach who, they were great. They are great. Still working with them. But I think what happens when you work with coaches is they figure out a formula that they've mastered.
Sure.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And then they try to help people with their formula, but not everybody fits. I'm like, I think I joked earlier that I'm like water. I don't have a shape. I don't fit into a format. I'm chaos. I break shit, man. Like that's what I do. And they were trying to fit me into this formula. And I was like, they're like, so much, you've learned so much, you've done all these interviews, like you got to start coaching and teaching. I'm like, yeah. They're like, you have imposter syndrome. I'm like, yes, that's not wrong, but do I have a desire to coach, right? And like, I just want to tie it in with that idea of desire. Like you have to have a desire to do the thing you're doing if you ever want to like get ahead with it or be happy.
Yeah, and then you have to. It's a tightrope. And the tightrope that comes with that is if you are passionate, which I assume you are after knowing you now for 22 minutes. If you are passionate and you're paying attention and you're engaged and your mentee or your student or your athlete or whatever the coach relationship would require, whoever you're imbuing with this knowledge or energy or experience, if you're not careful, speaking from experience, you may end up wanting more for them than they want for themselves. And it's difficult to untangle your input in there because they become, whether you like it or not, they become a part of you.
Right.
And you're like, I am cheering for you. I am attending your momentous occasions. I am pushing you gently up this hill. And then when you get to the top of the hill, I will help you go down the hill if you need to. But I'm hoping that at some point you stretch your arms and run.
Right.
And if they're like, I don't feel like running, then it's hard.
Let falling things fall.
Let falling things fall. Let them fall.
Yeah.
But you have to, because otherwise you've got, that's the second half of let falling things fall. Because otherwise you end up carrying the weight of all of these people that haven't lived up to your expectation when their expectation was far less than that.
Yeah.
And that's heavy.
That's where I thought you were going to go with the falling things fall thing.
It's threefold.
Oh, really?
The first one is insurance, though. The first one is take care of your body.
Yeah.
The second one is take care of your heart. Third one is take care of your mind. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm going to, wait, actually, screw it. What's the difference between heart and mind?
So emotion.
Okay.
Right. So say that the way that I teach that thing, the let falling things fall, is that if you have a bad day and you go home at night and you carry that bad day into your evening and you have no less than 7 hours of rage server dreams, there's never enough ranch, nobody has knives, that bottle shattered, the cook's out of the whatever, the soup's not hot, la la la, and you have your rage server dream where you run around and you wake up unfulfilled and you wake up tired and you wake up cranky, and then you carry that day into the next day and you begin to affect and poison the people around you. Whereas if you can rise above it and let falling things fall and let that bad day of emotions fall, then off you go. Then you can move on. You can get past it. And then so that's the heart part. That's where you're feeling. How you're feeling about what you're doing is your heart.
Yeah.
And how you're thinking about what you're doing is your head. And so if you are constantly stuck considering and reconsidering a choice or a decision that you've already made where you can't undo it, you have to let falling things fall. You have to let that out.
Yeah.
I'd liken it to a backpack that, sometimes some of the best memories are the smallest pebbles, and sometimes some of the stupidest crap are the biggest boulders. And no matter what, the more things you put in your backpack, eventually you're going to be weighed down so much that you can't move forward. So only put the things that you need in your backpack and move on. So little pebbles for happiness, medium pebbles for like lessons and learns, and give those pebbles out on the road. Keep your backpack light.
I got to give some stuff out in my camper.
Yeah, it's too much stuff in there.
I think I need to get rid of some. Yeah,
that's okay.
I wish I had that advice.
We have a whole apartment out here.
Okay,
you can kind of just throw some stuff in there.
Hell yeah. You heard it here. So all right, man, this is great stuff. By the way, I'm loving the conversation. We have to interrupt today's episode to let you know that every second and fourth Thursday of the month at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, Restaurant Systems Pro CEO Fred Langley is going live to teach you everything you need to know to run a profitable restaurant from soup to nuts. All you gotta do is click the link below. So at what point, I'm curious, at what point did Regan become a mentor to you?
Almost immediately. He, so he was the guy. His career, I'm sure if people are paying attention enough to know exactly who Regan is, then your podcast is on fire, and congratulations. But if they aren't, he was, one of Sam's original partners down in Tucson, 1998, and he was the beverage director. And so when I was working in 2004 at one of the locations, I think in 2004 we had like six locations. And so anytime that we did a wine training or a wine class or whatever, Regan would show up. And it's a slightly uncommon name, so it wasn't like Bill is on his way or Joe. Right. And so Regan's coming, and everybody would get kind of like super pumped and super excited about Regan. And in walks in this kind of like normal guy, glasses, bald head, and he launches into and teaches without notes from memory 60 different wines, which is way too many wines for like 25, 26-year-old people to taste at like 9 o'clock at night, right? But he makes it so much fun and so engaging and so kind of like, you're like, how does anyone have a life without knowing this much about wine?
Yeah.
What have we been doing?
What was fun about it?
Not only would he make it literally fun. He's a charismatic speaker, and he would always say, "I've got honey in my voice. I've got honey in my voice." Not only would he make it fun with anecdotes and jokes and laughter and other things, but he would every once in a while insert passion that you could pick up on and turn that into something that you could use, a tool in your bag when you're on the floor selling your own wine. And then on top of that, he could strangely, simultaneously, immediately see when he'd lost everybody. If he's talking about like, the 3 grapes in the Piedmont or whatever, and everybody's just like lost, then he'll stop and make it more accessible and more entertaining in order to get the information across. Because really his only goal is not checking a box that he had to go to Phoenix and he had to teach a wine class and then he could leave. What he had to do was teach wine. And he had to teach wine to the employees, and then the employees were going to use that knowledge to sell more wine to the guests. And because we were selling more wine to the guests, then there was more money in the top line, et cetera, et cetera. So this was not just a box to check or an activity to complete. It was a necessary development step for everybody that was in that room. And so if a guest comes in and they can't pronounce 2 or 3 of the wines, and neither can you, then both of you are hosed and everybody's drinking Bud Light.
Yeah. Were you trying to be lift up at this point? Did Regan see something in you? Were you kind of resisting this idea of a life in restaurants because you had the dream of being a writer?
Well, I think that he knew. I think that he knew right away that I was one of these people that could probably talk my way out of a sunburn if I needed to, kind of a thing, like a fairly charismatic young gent that with some guardrails and some inspiration that I could probably do, a lot of good things. I'd like to think that anyway. And I knew that when, I reached out to him, I kind of showed him my bait by saying, I've signed up for my level 1 Somm class. Is there anything that, you wish you would have known going into it? That speaking vulnerability to power, I guess, as opposed to truth to power, speaking out loud about things that you're concerned about and worried about and nervous about that are legit. It's like, what if I never find love? That's not what you do to your mentor, your business mentor. You say, hey, I'm excited to learn this and to do this. Is there anything that I should know? And he immediately began giving me tips and tricks on the way, and he supported me through.
Learn 3 things a day. What a resource he was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You learn 3 things today. Then and so then in operations, I say fix 10 things. Even if one of the 10 things is that there's a sticker on the bottom of the thing, or that the door doesn't close exactly right, get a screwdriver and tighten it up, or replace a light switch. Anyway, so when you get all the way through, our time together, And I got my level 1, and he congratulated me on that. And eventually he said, hey, I can't come up to teach the wine class for this one day, this one wine class. And I need you to teach it. And I hadn't prepared anything to teach the wine class. But he gave me his notes, and we went through the wine list together, and I wrote some stuff down, and I taught that wine class. And from that moment forward, he was waiting for me to be ready, I think is how he would say it. He was waiting for me to be ready to step out from behind the bar and start being, in front of the bar, start going to, Chicago to teach wine at True Food Kitchen, or to make a new cocktail for this menu rollout, or to teach somebody, how to correctly open a bottle of champagne without blowing the doors off the place, or like hitting their own glasses, which I've done both of those things. Yeah. So
I'm curious, before we move on to your evolution from behind the bar to in front of the bar and becoming the director, the bar. Wait, what was it? 2011. You were the beverage manager, right?
Sure.
Title.
Yeah.
So
basically, it was Regan and I. We ran beverage, and then his title changed and my title changed, and it was really just Regan and Snapp.
So you're just basically moving into his role as he moved forward.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah.
So he would take a step forward, you would take a step into his place.
Correct.
So he must have had you pinned from an early day that he wanted you.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope he was scouting me.
How happy was he able to hide the joy in his eyes when he told him your dreams of becoming a writer were over?
I hope he wasn't joyful that my writing dreams had suffered catastrophic failure. I think that he, I can remember a couple of the days. He said, one of the moments that I knew that he was looking. He goes, "Do you have any shirts with buttons on them?" Because I would always wear like vintage rock shirts, or like a vest without a whatever and a tie kind of thing. Blah blah. And I was like, what? He said, if you're going to be visiting stores and teaching classes on wine or cocktails or spirits, or teaching tequila at Blanco or whatever, you're going to need to look like you belong there. You need to look like you're in the front of the room for a reason.
Right.
And I was like, oh man. So, that was kind of when he showed me all his cards. And, 5-6 months later, we were opening the second location of True Food in Newport Beach. And that was a hell of an opening, and he had snuck away in the middle of the shift to buy a couple of really kind of esoteric, funky French style saison beers. And so he goes, "Snapp, get out of the well." And I was like, "You got it, whatever it needs to happen." And so we went and we sat on the patio near the fire pit, and we had these really beautiful beers, and we brought out like a little bit of, we used to mix Grand Marnier and like Amaro Montenegro, Grand Marnier, and like a grapefruit liqueur together, and it goes really well with like a saison style or a French farmhouse beer. And you sip on that and you drink your thing, and he goes, "I would like to keep doing this with you for like 10 years. And I said, okay. And that was kind of the end of the job interview. And then from that point forward, if we were opening something, he and I were opening it together.
This is post 2011.
This is right at 2011. Right at 2011. This is the beginning. He kind of looked at me and said, we're going to open 9 or 10 locations next year, and after that it's going to be 12 or 13 locations, and we're going to need soldiers, and you and I are going to go out and do it.
Did you say why you?
Never in so many words. I think that we had a certain degree of an unspoken professional love affair, and I think that we're exactly 10 years apart, 10 years and like 8 days or something. And I think that I hope he saw some of the characteristics that he enjoyed in his own youth, or his own, like a decade earlier. That kind of brazen, brash, goofy, charismatic, intelligent person in the room that could, be magnetic enough to attract people's attention and then know what to do once they attracted it.
Right.
And so, that's how he rolls. That's how he still rolls. And I think that, people who are speaking kindly of me, that's how they speak kindly of me too. They say that,
Two things
hit me
I
with
want to say. One, you're only as good as the people you attract onto yourself. And behind every great restaurant, it's great people,
For sure.
And then I guess that's kind of one. So the other thing is, like, it's our role, it's our job, right here on the microphones. I mean, I recently redid the cover art.
I like them.
I made the melting pot a mentor smaller than the Restaurant Unstoppable, but melting pot of mentors. We are mentors. We recreate ourselves and others, and I think that's what it's all about, is to literally to give your values, to mentor, to lift up the generation that comes next. And that's all we do, is we work on ourselves, we turn around and we ripple out.
Correct.
And we lift up others to our level, and it's just,
100.
I love that that's just what is happening right here. It's just it's that simple, and it's that hard.
Yeah. And that we had the most direct influence with the hourly teams, front and back of house, etc., during openings. And he used to call it being deployed. And so we'd be deployed and we'd be in some place for 3 weeks. And usually the first 4 or 5 days was putting everything together, because it's all in boxes and nothing is organized the right way, etc., blah, blah, blah. And if you don't set it up the right way the first time, then the first time that the bartenders and the servers come in and look at it, that's how they're going to remember it forever. So you have to, it's very important to set it up.
Primacy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very important to set it up right the first time, so that they don't think that it's open for discussion.
Right.
Because if they're like, oh, this is where everything goes, as opposed to if it's all in boxes and the wrong people come in and they're using experience that is good experience but not accurate experience. Maybe they worked at a spot pulling beers and serving shots of cold whiskey or whatever, and no one trained them and they didn't have anybody to look up to, and so they come in with their own preconceived notions, and your goal is to take the best parts of their history and the best parts of their future and slap them together and make sure that they know that they've got a good path and that you're going to help them on that path. And so we had a great opportunity to do that every single time at the new restaurant openings, and it was considerably harder to maintain for the open properties, but doing store visits, I think that to your point about you attract people and you ripple out. He would always say, and then I would then take it up and say that short of writing the menu, short of training the menu, when you're visiting the store, you need to be a value add. If you're in there and you're barking about the ice and you're barking about the air conditioning and you're barking about this, then no one wants to see you. But if you go in and you're like, this is awesome, you guys are doing great, this is pretty clean, this is pretty dirty, but let's move on this. And if you're not being a value add for their excitement of the job, then you're not doing it right.
Right.
So
2011, you take on this new role of beverage manager. You do that from 2011 to 2014, 2014 to 2022. You're the beverage director.
Yeah.
What was
I have a terrible admission to make. I don't think I've updated LinkedIn in a long time.
Oh,
I don't
really?
know.
Are those dates not right?
Those are close enough.
Close enough?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm looking at points of evolution, struggles. Like, what was your struggle taking on this new role of beverage director or manager, if anything?
My shift never ended. And I think that's the big transition when people go from being a server or a bartender or even an assistant manager to a manager, is that your shift never ends anymore.
You went to salary.
Went to salary.
Yeah.
You go to salary. If the beer is foamy at one of the 30 locations, your phone might ring.
Yeah.
And it's not because your phone's ringing because you're the only person in America who knows how to troubleshoot the beer. It's because, however, on purpose or by accident, you always answer. And so it's a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you're always answering and they're saying, hey, this is this and this and this, and you go, okay, go in, is this wrong, is this wrong, and you troubleshoot it on the phone, and it might be 7 o'clock at night, and you might be at dinner with your mom or your dad or whatever's going on. And so from that point forward, that was the biggest thing to get used to, is that your shift doesn't end.
Right.
And I used to love when my shift ended. I had such a great routine when I was working, behind the bar at a regular schedule, that I would love when my shift ended, because it was over.
What was the routine?
You ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. So a good friend of mine, Eric Carfignini, and I worked together at Culinary Dropout. He's actually in Paso Robles now. He's in and out of the spirits industry, and they own a restaurant in Paso Robles, him and his brother.
Okay.
They got it from their aunt. Great family, good guy. And he and I would close together on Friday and Saturday, and we would go to the Roadrunner, which was a dive bar around here. And so we would hustle to get closed as fast as we could, knowing that 2 o'clock was the cutoff time. And if we were dangerously close, we'd call the bartender at the Roadrunner and we'd have him line him up, and we'd go, and he'd, because he served them before last call, so they were lined up on the back bar. So it was a hit, like a loophole.
Put that one in your back bar.
Exactly. I'm here to teach you. And so he'd line those up, and then we'd go and we'd unwind after work, because you go hard. We'd do $6,000-$7,000 behind the bar between 5 p.m. and midnight, and we'd unwind and we'd have a couple of shots and a couple of beers, and we'd shoot some pool and kind of like chat and make jokes about the day, etc. And then the next day we'd do it again. But then Sunday, I would flip my Saturday shift so that I'd have an early double on Sunday. And then on Sunday night, I would go to the Outback and I would get food to go, and I would come home and have a couple of beers and eat Outback right out of the bag on Sunday nights. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I didn't have anything to do.
Yeah, that rhythm is nice.
It's good. And you can see the end of the tunnel, and at the end of the tunnel is Outback Steakhouse waiting for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what in the world of Fox Concepts was the job description of a beverage manager?
For brevity, if you can drink it, I manage it.
Okay. Managing, what does that mean?
So you are a flower child in Washington, D.C., and you can't get your iced tea. That's me.
So you're basically probably selecting and supplying.
Yeah, you write the menu.
And educating.
Yeah, you write the menu with the culinary team. You and the culinary team and Sam. And so we used to call it like the small table. Okay. And that's the operations, construction, beverage, culinary, and Sam. And you would make your decisions, and you would, we're going to change this menu on this day. Okay, here's the content. Here's the tasting. We're going to get the tasting approved. Where's the glassware? Who's got the glassware? This is that. These are the spirit producers we're going to use. These are the people that we have great relationships with. These are the costs. These are the menu prices. These are the buttons that go into the POS. Right. All that stuff, right?
So Regan's selecting these things. You're managing them. Meaning, what does that look
we
like?
We all select them together.
Okay.
Like there was no reason for me to be in the room when he was changing the Chardonnay.
Got it.
Right. And so he would conduct all of those meetings quickly and with the people that he trusted in the industry. And he'd say, okay, we need a new Chardonnay. It needs to be around this price. It needs to feel like this, taste like this. I want one that's clean and stainless steel, and I want one that's kind of like dirty, buttery, oaky. Boom. And so then they taste and boom, boom, pow. And then for the cocktail program, I'd put together what I think needed to happen for seasonality or for trend and give that to Regan. He'd taste it through it. We'd taste that. If anybody else wanted to come to the tasting, they come to the tasting. Otherwise, we would make the thing, put in the recipes, and go out and train it. But then we were doing that. This is where it got a little bit complicated. We were doing that for, 10 concepts with 30 or 40 locations by the time it was 2015, 16, 17. And some of the concepts were new, and some of the concepts, like the Henry in town opened in 13, and now I think they have like 9 of them. And Culinary Dropout opened in 2010, and now there are 12 or 13 of them. And like True Food Kitchen opened in 2009, and we got it all the way to 20 by 2017, and now I think there's 35 of them.
Right.
And so some of those things, obviously, Fox doesn't have anything to do with anymore. And in 2019, the Cheesecake Factory bought them completely. Yeah. But they operate as an entity of the Cheesecake Factory as opposed to like a subsidiary, I suppose. And so, not to get too far off a topic, but basically, basically, if there was a new store opening and I wasn't training somebody on how to make all of the espresso, then it was someone that I had trained to train people how to make the espresso. And if it wasn't me, then it was someone that Regan had trained to make the espresso. And so the two of us, like if you drank it somewhere, if you were having a cold beer and it wasn't cold and you didn't know why, and your general manager didn't know why, and your regional director of operations didn't know why, then in comes... We had capes. It was awesome. Like we flew right in.
So the challenge that you identified earlier was that there was no end of shift.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you combat that challenge?
Poorly.
Knowing what you know now, how would you have combat that challenge?
I think that I would have put a higher premium on... Oh, that would have been another mantra. You can do whatever you want with it, but teach everyone you know everything you know as fast as you can.
Yes. So, what immediately came into my mind, this idea of never being off, I'm all about 10x is easier than 2x, which is a book I just read. And I know my listeners are like, oh, whenever he reads a book, it's all we hear about until he reads the next book because it's top of mind. But like this idea of an entrepreneur is you should be only doing the 20% of things that you are really good at, your unique abilities, the things that you have desire to do, the things that you can do better than anybody else, and the things that like are truly just lean into your strengths as a person.
Sure.
And I think those lessons can be transferable to managers and directors because really your job in those roles is just to make sure those things are getting done. So like, do you need to be the person that gets called, or can you delegate that to somebody at a certain time?
I mean, it's a little bit of both. Okay. And so when you are in that position, in that scenario, and you have all of the knowledge, getting someone to ask for the knowledge is a tough step. Getting them to receive the knowledge is a tough step. Getting them to retain and use the knowledge is a tough step. And so if you are short on patience sometimes, honestly, and you're not thinking about, your own future or your own next step, then you end up thinking to yourself, if I just do this, it'll be faster than if I attempt to teach you. And if I attempt to teach you and you're not paying attention today because you're on another planet or you're not focusing or something like that, and it doesn't come through. I mean, we're using like a beer system as a terrible example of it, but you begin to notice the capabilities of those people who you're coaching. And once again, from earlier, if you want more for them than they want for themselves, like they're like, this is my job. This is not my career. And so I don't care if the beer system doesn't work. And you're like, well, someone has to care because the beer sucks right now. We got to go get that beer fixed. And I think that the tough part there is that if you continue to focus on the whole reason for hospitality, which is the people in the seats, then it has to be right. 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 It's my responsibility to make sure it's right.
Right.
And if it's wrong, it's my responsibility to fix it.
Yeah.
Fault doesn't come into that scenario.
It's clear and obvious to me listening to you that you are like the culture carrier that like Regan put into place. Like, you need to have somebody in that spot who gives an F. Yeah. Because that give an F is contagious. And who gives the closest Fs to me?
Yeah.
Promote them because they need to hold the standard. And like,
correct.
It's like this idea of just like, replacing yourself with those people who can do it as nearly as close as you can. Right. But what I'm also curious about your evolution from manager to director. How did your role change?
Like I said, it didn't really change. It wasn't just like in name only, but we were growing to a certain point where
there needed to be more.
There needed to be a VP.
Okay.
And Regan wasn't a VP because he didn't care about titles and he didn't care necessarily about like, who sat in what meeting. He's a partner in the company. He's a long-standing employee. He's fine. Whatever his business card says, it says. But for internal optics and external optics, there needed to be kind of like a group of VPs. This is the VP of purchasing and the VP of culinary and the VP of this. And so there was no secondary or tertiary choice for VP of beverage.
Yeah.
There was nobody else there.
It's funny because like in all my research, like looking at titles and trying to figure out how to set up an organizational structure and who's responsible for what, there seems to be no clear line associated with. Like, I always get so confused as to like how do we set this? Like, who does what and what? Like, is it standard? It doesn't really seem to be. Is there? Do you know of an appropriate way to set those things up?
I mean, I understand. I understand the importance of it.
Yeah.
I don't think having as rigid a hierarchy as like the military is as important. But when I'm looking at somebody's resume and I see that they were a coordinator or a supervisor or a assistant coordinator or something like that, I know that they were working at a relatively basic role, right? And then by the time that you see director on there, and this is we're running into this a little bit more, but people are handing out the beverage director role as a part of the compensation. It's kind of like a cool jacket to wear. But currently 2024 May, you line up 10 different beverage directors from different walks of life, and not a single one of them would know the same amount as the other one. And they would all know different things too.
Yeah.
But beverage director gets this glom of you're more than a bartender and you're more than a beverage manager, but you are in charge of the program. I think that director means program, that you have a seat at the table about what the content.
Yeah. And this is where I think your background as a copywriter really comes in, because what are you doing as a copywriter? You're creating a program, essentially.
Correct. Yeah.
You're developing a story. You're taking people through this experience.
Yeah.
And that's when I saw that, I was like, wow, what a great skill set to have as a beverage director.
The thing that I've been using it more for is to figure out, and historically as well, so that we're not off tangent, but is to figure out exactly how to phrase something succinctly so that someone understands the point without losing interest. And this whole kind of like TLDR scenario now it's tough because you still have to convey information and you still have to teach people things, but you don't have as much time to do it, and oftentimes you don't have as much attention. Like finding somebody that's engaged and wants to learn what you're teaching is so exciting, as lame as that sounds, but in this part of the career, when you have people who are paying attention to what you're saying, that's an honor. Yeah. and like a serious investment that they're giving you, because most of the time, maybe they don't pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah. In terms of creating a program,
Mm-hmm.
beverage program, is there a formula you use? Is there a way you approach that, a standard that you can pay forward?
Yes, but I don't think anybody's ever asked that question so specifically. I think that it's a good idea. Here's how I would do it, which is where you were headed, so I'll just jump in. I would write down all the cool things that I wanted to do. And so
give me an example of cool things you'd want to do. Like,
okay, so and I would also, this is the other important part, is that I would go and I would talk to the people that are in the building, right? So some of the concepts that Sam had multiple locations. Some of them only had one. And usually the one-offs, we call them the boutiques. And so the boutiques usually had general managers that were a little bit more in tune with kind of like art and craft and flair and kind of this and that and this. Not flair, but, a little bit more of the show and the circumstance, etc. And so I would go talk to them and I would say, what do you think is missing? And I would bring data. I'd say, hey, listen, in your current cocktail menu, you have 11 cocktails. These 4 sell a lot. These 2 don't sell at all. And I'm wondering if that's because your clientele, also when I pull the product mix for wine, you sell more 9-ounce pours of Sauvignon Blanc than you do any other 3 things combined. So that speaks to A, your demographic. That speaks to B, your servers and other things. We used to have this joke that if you just walk up and you say, are we drinking some Sauvignon Blanc today? People would say yes.
What is it with Sauvignon Blanc that everyone loves?
It's just crisp enough for it not to be like aggressive.
Right.
It goes with most like lighter lunch fare. And then if you do it right and you've got like a New Zealand style, then you've got a little bit of like sugar feel, a little bit of residual sugar feel to it, even if it doesn't actually have residual sugar to it. It's almost candy-like, and it's candy in the nicest ways, like green apple and lemon zest and white flowers and all those things, and it's just delicious and refreshing.
But the grapefruit, man. The grapefruit,
the grapefruit and the green grass. Get out of here.
The grapefruit gets me every time.
Yeah.
There are some Sauvignon Blancs that aren't so forward in the grapefruit, but the grapefruit, man, it's just that bitterness.
Yeah.
Some people
love it.
But
Pinot, it took the place of Pinot Grigio, and it took the place of Chardonnay, and it took the place of White Zin. And so if you look at those 3 things, they're completely and totally different, right? Yep. What people aren't drinking is they're not walking in and saying, give me some Riesling right now. That's just not.
Yeah.
It tastes sweet. It is sweet. It feels sweet. It's low ABV. People don't pay attention to what they just know that they don't want sweet.
Right.
And when you're having a Sauvignon Blanc, especially with something with a touch of acidity, whether it's the grapefruit or not the acidity, and you've got like a really beautiful lemon, thyme, oregano vinaigrette, then those two things go together like peas and carrots, and all of a sudden your 1 + 1 = 3, and you're having a great experience, not just lunch and a glass of wine. In any case, I would go and I'd talk to the operators and I'd say, what do you want to see? Where have you been eating? Where have you been drinking? Have you been to New York or San Francisco or Chicago or any of the other major markets lately? Have you seen anything that you really enjoy that you want to kind of like, you want to copy, rip off, take over, do this, bad writers borrow, good writers steal kind of a thing. And in one particular occasion, one of the operators, the general manager, a guy named Frank, said, I want a green tea press. And I said, so you want the most refreshing, slightly sparkling green tea in an alcoholic cocktail ever? And he's like, yeah. And I said, done. And so then I took, because we had started working with a local tea merchant and we were designing our own teas. We designed the teas for the different brands so they'd taste different and be different. You wouldn't be able to get that iced tea anywhere else, kind of a thing. And so I took that Japanese mango sencha green tea and infused it slowly with a little bit of gin and a little bit of vodka to make this kind of herbaceous, kind of slightly botanical scenario. And then played with how long I infused it so that it didn't get overtly tannic or dirty or gross. And then hit it with honey and lemon and soda water. And it was this tall green tea, like you put a little cucumber and a little bit of mint in there and you make sure that the aroma from the mint comes out. And it just felt like you were drinking a sparkling green tea, but she carried, a full 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces of booze behind her. And it was immediately one of the best sellers. And immediately, like, everybody loved it and made it. And it was inexpensive because we were making the infusion in-house. And so the three things to break that backwards is to talk to people, experience what other people are experiencing. Everything goes on the wheel. Write everything down. Dream big. Do things that people can't do or won't do. And then when you execute, make sure that the execution is bulletproof.
Yeah. So it sounds like first seek to understand.
Seek to understand.
Right.
For sure.
Go out there.
Ask questions.
Gather the data.
Get all the information.
What are we looking for? And then reverse engineer it with your knowledge.
Yeah. You come into a restaurant and you say, okay, you have 10 cocktails on your menu. And at Barter Shake, we have 30 on each. And there are 3 concepts in there. So there's 90 plus cocktails in that one building. Right. And it's a lot more information, but that's also all we're doing. Right. Like we don't have, the server doesn't have to memorize the ingredients in the hummus. They need to know all of the cocktails and they need to know how that's working, blah, blah, blah. But historically, you go in and you take a look at the 10 that they have. And if I just looked at it online and I didn't look at any data about product mix, and I didn't look at any data about like cost of goods and how often it sells and when it sells, what time of day, etc., and I just put 10 bourbon cocktails on there, that's an uninformed idiot trying to do something that I like. I don't seek out green tea presses, but I know how to make one and make, over the course of 4 years, I think it made like $10 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
like
crazy.
Insane amount.
I do want to talk more about drink programming.
Sure.
Like where like what are the trends in the worlds of the cocktails and like where is like the bar and lounge industry going trend wise? But let's get through your story.
Okay.
So back to your evolution under the Fox Concepts.
Mm-hmm.
You're there until 2022.
Late 21. Yep.
Late 21.
Mm-hmm.
Any other points of evolution, tipping points, pain points that you overcame in terms of your evolution as a cocktail bartending beverage director?
Sure. And basically in my role. So the exciting part, there were several exciting parts, and with growth comes more people. And so when it came time for us to need to build a team beyond just Regan and I, because of the physical and sincere lack of human capital, we just couldn't literally be everywhere at once.
How many total locations were there at the peak when you were there?
I think before True Food spun off in 2017, I feel like we had close to 60 or 70.
Wow.
And so, we grew True Food to 20 and then spun it off. So we went backwards 20. And so the number started kind of over again. And then we grew before, we were growing. The deal with Cheesecake was to grow north to a certain number. And then they were going to take north and run north because they wanted to operate it also. And then 2 years after that, we were continuing to grow Flower Child, that fast casual spot. And then they were going to take that 2 years after and operate that. And they wanted to operate that. And so basically, in a nutshell, and I'm glad that I wasn't in the behind closed doors, and probably learned way too much, but in a nutshell, when they were doing their due diligence and their research and the legal teams were kind of battening it out during the North deal, they basically said what we could do, instead of just buying North now and buying Flower Child later, we could buy the whole company and then spin out Flower Child when we're ready to spin it out. We'll take North now, we'll do this, do that, do this. But in growing to that point, the 2 or 3 things that I really enjoyed were understanding, realizing, and being able to raise my hand and say, we need more people. Like, we physically cannot open a North in Miami at the same time as we're opening a Henry in Dallas at the same time. It's literally impossible. And if it's a 3-week stint and we're doing 20, that's 60 weeks. There's only 52. We can't do it. And so the excitement of doing what you were referencing when Regan was out scouting, going through and talking to bartenders about what they want to be when they grow up. And, I got to work with the now beverage director. His name's Aubrey Mancine, and he was one of the opening bartenders at Culinary Dropout in Tempe in 2014. And so I tapped him on the shoulder in 2015 and 16. And I said, I want you to come to some openings. And he attacked the world with a lot more kind of like physicality and like, let's get this done and let's go, where my approach had always been a little bit more cerebral. And so to team up with him and have him be the yin and yang with me while Regan's over here doing this and that and this, like to divide and conquer, that was one of the moments that I was like, oh, okay, this works.
Yeah.
This works without Regan. And
when you say cerebral, you're thinking like the strategy behind it, the thoughtfulness, and he's more about like willing it into existence.
Yeah, let's go get it done.
So that's the yin and
yang. Like my, I don't think it's opposite to think of the plan and execute the plan. But some people are great planners and some people are unbelievable executors.
Right.
And so, now he's, one of his greatest skills is being able to see the whole picture and seeing what part he needs to play. He's very talented at it, probably better at it than I was, because I would always lose focus and lose patience and jump in and do some things myself.
Got it.
And the day that you're putting the Metro racks together in the basement is the day that you're like, I bet I could have found somebody to put these Metro racks together.
Right. So, okay. Man, so many different ways we can go. So I did speak to Reagan when you mentioned I wanted to bring it to the surface. When the Cheesecake Factory chose, and I know this isn't really your place to discuss what happened, but when the Cheesecake Factory chose to take over Fox Restaurant Concepts, the way that Regan pitched it was that they realized that when the deal for North was about to go through, that they didn't have the human capital to execute on it. So I think what they wanted was the people associated with North and the people associated with the Fox Concepts to execute. So like the whole idea that I understand, my understanding of it is that Fox Restaurant Concepts is generating concepts. That's what they do. They are
We're an incubator.
So what the Cheesecake Factory does is scales. So
100%.
once something catches traction, once something has the legs to scale, that's when the Cheesecake Factory says, okay, we got it from here.
Sure.
So I think it's pretty cool, that whole model of realizing you go further together and that it can happen at that corporate level where you can take two corporations and just whenever you can, to your point, the yings and the yangs.
Yeah.
Whenever that happens, it's just so powerful. You can, like, when you put it's cool to see that at that level, two amazing organizations, Cheesecake Factory, amazing, Fox Restaurant Concepts, amazing, to know your lanes and to put your ego aside and say, let's go further together.
Yeah, and I think that was probably right around the time when I started saying that we're going to do things that people can't do or won't do. And, that was when I was talking with Regan and I was talking with, the rest of the team on the beverage front. And everybody was very worried that, some of their talent and some of their skill and some of their capability in scaling is to homogenize things, is to kind of like get rid of some of the excess. And, even though our model had, like wind drag and it was looking a little bit oblong and whatever else, it was, to us, it felt more honest and pure because at the heart of it, it was creative and it could change and it was agile and durable. And those were the two things that, that Regan and I prided ourselves on, was being both durable and agile. Because you don't think of those two things going well together, but if you're going to be on the road for 35 weeks and you're going to be living in a hotel, you're going to be deployed, like he says, and if you're not durable, you don't make it. If you're not
of a seal,
what's that?
I'm thinking of a seal, durable and agile.
Durable and agile,
right?
Yeah, I'm not going to be the one that says Regan's a seal, but I'll tell him you said so.
All right, so, but we have to interrupt today's episode to let you know that every second and fourth Thursday of the month at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, Restaurant Systems Pro CEO Fred Langley is going live to teach you everything you need to know to run a profitable restaurant from soup to nuts. All you got to do is click the link below. You said you prided yourself in this idea that it was kind of like there was a drag and it was optical. Like, what was weird about, like, get into the specifics. My allergies are like in my chest.
I understand.
It's crazy.
Arizona in May is a tough place to be.
Weird. Yeah.
Like, I suppose it's the difference between, swimming laps in a Speedo and swimming laps in a sweatsuit.
Okay. So you guys were...
If you're swimming laps in a sweatsuit, you're stronger. And if you need to be, then you can get rid of the sweatsuit and you can win.
Okay.
But for, you look at it and you go, can we do this? Can we execute this? Can we execute like a tomato water Mirepoix infused Bloody Mary in West Hollywood, this and that and this? Can we get this done? And you can. And it's not something that a by the books machinery type operator would consider, because they would say, this is either too complex or too inconsistent or too this or too that. And where the creative entrepreneur goes is, how can I make it bulletproof in its current permutation, as opposed to scrapping it entirely because it's not scalable?
What was the sweatsuit for Fox Restaurant Concepts? I have ideas, but I don't want to make assumptions.
What did we, I'll follow my own metaphor just a second. Okay. So what did we continually do to ourselves to make ourselves stronger, whether or not it was totally practical? We did two fairly sizable menu changes per concept per year.
Okay.
And then we also opened between 10 and 15 locations a year. And a lot of those things overlapped, and a lot of those things were, and it wasn't because we had to. It's not as though like the guest had stopped coming because there were strawberries on the salad in December. It was because we were supposed to. It's because we needed to. It's because that's what you do. You don't serve strawberries in December.
Right.
You don't serve watermelon at True Food Kitchen in November. You need to change. You need to reprint. And so that sweatsuit was, it's going to cost us money. It's going to cost us team. It's going to cost us resources. We're going to have to send these 10 people to 5 cities in 2 weeks or whatever it is, and there's cost associated with that, where we could just leave it alone.
Right. So in my mind, the sweatsuit is the extra stuff that makes you better at a cost.
Uh-huh.
So it's the things like quality, creative, the human,
for sure,
the human capital, of being able to execute those high quality things at a consistent level.
Correct.
And the Speedo is the scalability, the keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, I would say that's exactly where I was headed on that. Like, and I think that the team in the Speedo looks at the team in the sweatsuit and says, does anyone know that the Henry is punching Kennebec potatoes every morning to make the French fries? Does anyone know? And we go, I don't care. They're delicious. They're perfect.
Right. So how do you find that balance of Speedo and sweatsuit?
It's tough. It's tough. And
this is such a fun analogy.
That's right.
Yeah. Did you just come up with that?
A little bit. I mean, okay. Drag, when you're talking about drag, other than like race cars and airplanes, but I don't know enough about airplanes, and I'm talking to a pilot, so I'm not going to try to.
I could have played off
and
that.
And then Bernoulli's fourth principle, we've got that. No, I can't do it. I can't go faster. So I think that most people's I think that most people's Speedo is experience. I think that if you bring on experience, if you are willing to admit that you don't know exactly what you're doing and you bring on experience, and that's kind of the aim of your entire thing here with the podcast and the other thing is just to learn what you don't know.
Right. And stay in your lane, too.
Exactly.
There's a balance of that.
That's what you do when you're in a Speedo. You got to stay in
Right.
your lane. You're not allowed to just go back and
Keeps
forth into
going.
other lanes. Hey-o.
It's going. All right. So we got to get back. I mean, we're
I don't know where we
over
left
an
off at
hour.
this point.
No, man, I'm loving the conversation. This is why I don't have a plan.
That's good.
There's a reason why I have my structure is who are you? Like, how did you get here?
Yeah.
Where are you today? Where
I'm
are we
fine.
going? We've been talking a lot about how you got here.
Okay.
I think it's time to talk about where are you today. So the segue into that is why leave this rocket ship? You
Sure.
climbed you're one man behind, I would say, the second man in the pecking order, right? In terms of like, Sam Fox recruited Regan recruited you. You were high up on that list of one of the most well-regarded, respected restaurant groups in the country.
Yeah.
If not the most.
Well, so Regan departed, and he had an opportunity. Sam made an opportunity to kind of like, there wasn't, from a financial standpoint, there wasn't a lot of dividends being paid out during his time there. So it wasn't like he had a war chest at home that was like, ha 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 ha, these are my doubloons and here I go. And so he had an opportunity after 21 years, to kind of like get off at the next exit and take his share of the winnings and go do something. And he took it.
Yeah, he said he didn't want to do anything, but somehow he found
Oh my
himself.
God. He's like, what a liar.
How long did that last? About a year?
No, 2 or 3 months, maybe. I called him. I'm like, how you doing? You bored? And he's like, no, I bought an apartment complex. And you're like, oh God, Regan. Oh boy.
That's wild.
No, yeah. I mean, he's flipping real estate with his buddy. He's a brand new dad. And he
That's my goal right there, to
Yeah.
be in my 50s.
And be a brand new dad?
Be a brand new dad.
Sure. Like, you know so much. Like, you're not going to waste your time teaching the kid the wrong things. Like when you're 20s and 30s, when you're telling him to just get a bank job. Like, nobody's going to say that. He's going to be like, let's go out and figure this out, pal. In any case, so he left. And, a lot of the passion and energy, like his big things, his big contributions to Fox over the years, over the decades, was culture. You were talking about how, you can always spot the culture guy. His culture, his wine knowledge, his relationships with people in the industry, and et cetera. And he had done, I think, a good enough job of handing most of the actual tasks off to me during, the run up to that. And so there wasn't a huge like speed bump or brick wall as far as operationally in the beverage world. Like I was fine to take on crafting, the wine behind him and continue to make sure that all of the trains ran on time, etc. And, it meant that we needed to find a new way to inspire new employees and a new way to inspire new managers and a new way to inspire kind of like existing people who had potentially gotten stagnant. And I think we did an admirable job of it. I don't think that at a certain point, and I mean this lovingly, Riggs, at a certain point when you're opening a Flower Child in Oklahoma City, that, a 48-year-old man comes in and tells you how to take care of your guests, and then you never see him again. That didn't make as much sense. And so we shifted from having him be the icon to his kind of like teachings and methodology to be the boilerplate. And so it was always that you needed to treat everybody like family. And it was always that you needed to keep your facility clean because everybody feels more comfortable and it's about their comfort, blah, blah, blah. And so, he had that whole diatribe, the culture of hospitality. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Standards.
so it's there. And it's still there. And some of the things that I put are still there. Somebody got a job there the other day and I know them from a different whatever. And in their training packet is the Snapp's commandments. And I called it the commandments. So I was like, rules sound so bad. Like, this is a way to live, not a how to, like, anyway.
The Snapp way.
Yeah, Snapp way. And so, and they're still handing that piece of paper out. And I haven't.
What is the Snapp way?
That's two of those things we've already talked about. Let falling things fall. Pardon me. Amateurs practice until they get it right. Professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. Mm-hmm. Teach everyone you know everything you know as fast as you can. Serve beautiful things to great people. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
For every is that for instead of saying 4 things, do 2 things. Like basically shut up and keep going. Like you don't have to tell someone you're going to go get their iced tea. Just go get the iced tea. Like you only have a certain number of times to convince people that you're not weird tableside. So don't waste them by telling them things they already know.
Right. Kind
of a thing. I haven't given that speech in a long time, but
put you on the spot.
It's okay.
What reminds me, and like what I want to bring to the surface, is that like culture isn't just what you put on the paper; it's what you do every day.
100%.
And what I'm curious about is how did you? So like what comes to mind is Hertz Schultze from the Ritz-Carlton.
Okay.
I don't know if you know that name, but he was behind the Ritz-Carlton, and he had these 26 standards of service.
Okay.
And he would go through every day, and he would list one of the standards of service during like the lineup, you know, and that was the ritual. Every day we cover in order, and we go through the 26, not each of those every day, but like one day you do one, the next day you do the next
26 and rotate.
And then you would start over, right? How did you bring these things to the surface? How did you put this culture off of the paper and into action?
I mean, there were big things where you would pull someone aside who was struggling and you'd coach them. You'd coach them in the moment. You'd say, "Hey, can I give you some direct feedback? Like, obviously, what you did there was not what we want. And did it feel good? It didn't feel good. And look at your guests; they're unhappy. It's not okay." And then the unknown, you know, like we'd be out somewhere and we'd need to run to the store, and so we'd borrow a young manager's car because we don't have cars or whatever. And so it was Dallas and it was Regan and I. And we borrowed this young lady's car, and you could tell that she had been in opening mode for like a month because there was just like her car was filled with crap. Just God bless her. You could tell like there was extra shoes in the back and this and that. And so we went and got what we needed at the grocery store, but then we swung by a car wash. And we cleaned out all the trash and with this, and then we filled her trunk with, because there was 2 or 3 boxes of Cheez-Its that were completely and totally empty. And so then we filled her trunk. We filled her trunk with what looked to be like Malbec, IPA, and Cheez-Its, and we didn't say anything. And then she began to tell that story when she was training new people, when she became the AGM, and then eventually the GM, and then eventually this. And it's, you know, great hospitality doesn't have to be loud hospitality. Great hospitality is simple and quiet and kind if you do it right. And then it can be big and bold and boisterous. So we were just in that works nicely. We were just in New York. Barter Shake was at the James Beard House, helping kind of like supporting Angelo Sosa, who's with Tia Carmen and the Marriott team and all that jazz. And so they were doing the food, and he and Jason Asher, one of our founding partners, go way back, and they're like thick as thieves, and it's great. And so we were there a couple of days ahead of time to get ready and prep things, and we had cocktails that paired with every course of the menu, etc. And the kitchen manager for the James Beard House is a guy named Brandon, and he had been there managing the kitchen at the James Beard House, which is literally a house, and there's some pretty weird idiosyncrasies in there. You'll have to look it up. But Brandon had been managing that kitchen in that house for 15 years. And he doesn't look old enough to have been managing it for 15 years, etc. And he had taken a milk jug and cut the bottom of a milk jug off and duct taped it to a broom handle because it was wider and bigger. And that's how he swept up the leaves of the tree on the patio, because a regular thing he had to get down for it. So he invented this thing, and he had done it correctly in that way. And I was watching him, and I'm like, "You've been doing this for 15 years. And he's like, "Well, I made my own because this is the way it works. This works better." I'm like, "That's very practical." But as soon as we left, we sent him a leaf blower. We sent him a leaf blower. "Dear Brandon, you get those leaves, buddy." Like, you know, and
it shows that you're paying attention, that you care.
Yes. All you have to do is notice. All you have to do is, you know, you fix 10 things or you learn 3 things. And then, like, everything else falls into line.
Yeah. But I think part of it is literally creating language around the things, right? So, like, the commandments,
the 12 commandments.
The commandments. Like it's but you create language for it so like that people remember it, so that when they see it happening, you can resurface it. And it's writing it down is just the first step.
100%.
It's living it every day.
Correct.
It's surfacing it every day. It's creating the language around it every day. So we still haven't gotten to the point where. Let's transition.
We're gonna go 10 hours. We're gonna go 10 hours together.
Dude,
Eric.
I would
it's gonna
go.
be okay.
I would go 3 hours, 4
That's
hours
fine.
every time.
Listen, let's do it.
I mean, I'm afraid I'll lose listeners with my.
So
with
you
the
want
short
you
time
want
span
you want
and
the
attention.
transition. So,
So
let
the
me tell you the
transition,
transition. Regan had left and we transitioned over, and then the scuttlebutt was kind of coming around about how we were going to keep growing. And
What's a scuttlebutt?
That's like rumor mill. It's like the water cooler chat.
Cool.
Okay, I think it's from the military.
Okay.
Scuttlebutt.
Keep going.
I think it's like the chop that the submarine
We're just getting
throws
there,
off.
and I had to. My ADD had to kick in.
I want to go back and talk about broken glass and scars.
Oh man.
So we were getting ready to kind of like shift into go mode again, and I had participated in growing Flower Child, and I had participated, like opened the first one and then grown it. I had participated in growing North. I had participated in growing True Food. And the next 3 on the block were Blanco, and we were going to grow like 10 more Blancos, and we were going to grow like 10 more Culinary Dropouts and 10 more Henrys. And I was looking around, and I was like, I've seen this movie before, and I loved it, but I just finished watching it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch it again. And so, I went in and I talked to Sam and I talked to Amber and I talked to, some other people there. And I said, this is no pain. This is no sadness. This is no joy. Like, it's just time. And I gave them like a 90-day notice so that they could get organized or whatever they needed to do. And the 90-day notice happened to include 8 new openings.
Wow.
And so it was like, I'm not leaving anybody in the lurch here, but this is it. This is the timeline that we have to go for. And so I finished up October of 2021, and we had opened a Blanco and a Culinary Dropout in Denver, my hometown. And so I was in a place that I loved, and I grew up and finished it out strong. And the team there was really sympathetic and sweet and kind, and they gave me some beautiful parting gifts and other things like that. And then my wife and I had decided that after 17 years with the one company that I was going to take a month or 2 off. And I was like, yeah. And so we splurged and got a beautiful house in Sonoma for all of November. And I just sat there and drank coffee and hung out with the dog and watched like the fog roll in and roll out for 2 or 3 weeks.
I gotta make it up there.
Oh my God.
I bet I've driven through and I stopped and like I touched like the cool looking sand and I was like, all right, I gotta go. But I need to like
No,
chill.
you know what you do.
What's
Let's
that?
see if we can line you up 5 or 6 places to go
Yes.
in Healdsburg.
That was the direction.
That's
I was
the
headed.
move.
Like, who do
Okay.
I need to talk to while I'm there? 'Cause
Yes.
I know you know.
I'll put it in the end of the podcast.
Yes.
By the time we get there, I'll have one for you. There's a lot that are out there that
It's
are
a big
doing
draw.
like
People
a
go
lot
there,
of fun
yeah.
things. Yeah, but I mean having a house there, and it was up on a hill and it overlooked a vineyard, and it was everything that you wanted it to be. It had a kitchen that that wanted you to cook in it. Sometimes you rent a house from somebody and that's not very well suited, but we had a great month there. And then I came back, and the first week of December 2021 I joined up with Barter Shake, and there's a history that goes back 5 years previous to that, where I had been utilizing my creative writing skills to help them with their concepts. And so it came like full circle for me to come in an operations role and continue to put together the narrative focus and the creative writing focus and kind of some of those other things that I had been doing anonymously just to scratch that itch. I took in December, and when I landed, the team was a little slow to come out of COVID. They got knocked around pretty hard, and so one of the things that I wanted to do was to inspire this kind of like forward facing attitude, and that's kind of where the backpack thing is actually from the 12 commandments, where you make sure you don't put too much in your backpack. But I employed it there, and we went forward, and we opened another bar in Gilbert shortly after that, maybe about October of 22.
How many locations do they have this time?
Well, in theory, it's 3 buildings, but it's 5 concepts.
Okay.
So there's 2 of the undertow, and the undertow is the like kind of 1860s clipper ship. Kind of it feels like you're in the belly of an old school ship.
Paint the big picture.
Big picture of Barter and Shake?
Yeah, please.
Sure. So Jason Asher and Rich Fernari were kind of the 2 brainchildren behind that, both of them from service industry backgrounds. Rich was a wine guy and a service guy, big hospitality guy. Listening to him talk about hospitality it's enthralling. And then Jason was a cocktail guy, and he was working at Sanctuary, which is a bar up the hill at or Jade Bar at Sanctuary, which is like a spa and a resort. And he was about 10 miles ahead of anybody else at that time, and it showed because he had a culinary background and he was beginning to use culinary techniques to improve cocktails, to make more impressive cocktails, etc. And so he ended up winning Bombay Sapphire's or GQ's Bombay Sapphire Most Imaginative Bartender of the Year award.
Wow.
And so he won that award, and he traveled the country kind of like meeting bartenders and talking about innovation and all that other jazz, and created a good following for himself and a good reputation within the industry, and began forming some of the relationships that he still maintains today. And then so there was an opportunity for them to open or to transform, and it was with a designer and developer in town, to transform an old Jiffy Lube, just the oil bay, into a speakeasy. And so they were like, okay, cool. It's got this like narrow staircase. It feels kind of like the under of a ship. Maybe that's what we should do. And so they came to me, and Jason and I worked together because he was working at a distributor in town, and I was, obviously running the beverage part of it. So a beverage distributor, I had good relationships with all of them. And he came in and he's like, you have this background, this great creative writing background. Would you be interested in working with us on this thing? And so they had the framework of the story that basically this captain of a spice trading ship, or like a trading ship, was going from New York all the way to San Francisco. But in that time, there was no Panama Canal and there was no transcontinental railroad, so you had all the way down and around and around. And so it was usual.
Can you imagine people used to do that?
Yeah, no,
Wild,
I cannot. Like
dude.
78 days.
That's
78
crazy.
days. Like you've got a letter.
I'm like, I drove across the
Yeah.
country in a week. Oh,
Printing.
man, poor me. Like, Jesus.
You've got a printing press that needs to get to the San Francisco Chronicle. You put it on a boat and you wait 78 days. And 78 was the fast one.
Right.
And if it got there, like a lot of them didn't make it.
That's great. Sorry to.
No, I mean that's
perspective.
just how it is.
We're
but-
all so spoiled. Anyway.
Well, I haven't tried to drive across country recently anyway. But that trip, it needed a character, and it needed kind of like an arc, and that character needed, some idiosyncrasies and some kind of like personality pieces, and it needed a supporting cast that had some other weird things to it, and it needed to be something that would cement a place and time. And so Barter and Shake, the name Barter and Shake comes from a conversation and a commitment, like you barter and then you shake on it, kind of a thing.
About that.
Yeah.
I was wondering if it was like a shake, like a drink, or
No, it's like a handshake, And so it's the Barter and Shake was the, it starts as the original commitment between two people who are making a deal, and then it moves into, in the current time frame, it's the deal that you have with your guest. You have a conversation and a commitment.
Yeah.
And if they're there, you have a conversation about what they want, how they want it, when they want it, etc. And then your commitment to them is to deliver on that promise of hospitality.
integrity.
Barter and Shake.
Yeah, I love that.
And so, the underpinnings of that brand, that informed Rich when he was helping with the decor and putting this together. That had helped Jason kind of figure out some of the things that he was doing in order to make the great cocktail program when they were doing the training. What decor are we going to use? Where are we going from? We're going from New York, but there's not really anything kind of like 1860s and fun about New York. So we'll have a little bit of this black smithy iron kind of feel in the text, and we'll do this, and it's eventually going to be in tiki. So then it took 9 chapters to get from New York to San Francisco, but we skipped a couple of them because for the most part, when you're getting from like New York straight down to the Caribbean, it's just sailing.
Right.
And so at some point they go in the jungle, and then they're in their Brazil, and they're at the top of a mountain, and they're dealing with a shaman that's unhappy that they're coming in. And
what was the back end like? Like the western...
The back end of what?
Like going up the western coast of South America.
Treacherous. So they had just come around the Cape, and it was winter, and so a lot of them froze to death.
Oh, man.
And some of them had
Frozen
been
drinks?
Well, some more frozen drinks, yes. And so the fun part theatrically is that for a little while, Rich had this. I'm probably going to get it wrong, but basically like a nitrogen cannon that would lower the temperature of the room 8 to 10 degrees in one blast. And so at a certain point, the cannon would go off, and it would be like, whoa. And so that takes experiential, cocktail drinking to 3 or 4 new levels right there. And the cute thing about it is everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is just like Disneyland. This is like Pirates of the Caribbean. And it's not. Like that's kind of like cloying in theatricality for theatricality purposes. What we're trying to do is to get you to forget that you're in Phoenix.
Right.
If you forget that you're in Phoenix, fantastic. If you forget that it's daylight outside, fantastic. If you forget for a second that you're not in the belly of a ship, then awesome. That makes us wiggle. That makes you wiggle. And so when, there was a gentleman guest in the Undertow, and he's like, I know that my time's up. We run a 90-minute experience because we don't have any food. So
you're selling tickets to this?
No.
Okay.
Just reservations. But, we run on a 90-minute flip so that we can, keep the traffic moving. And also, since we don't serve any food, sometimes if people sit there for too long.
How many turns are you doing tonight?
We can fit 5 turns.
Yeah.
5 turns on a nice Friday and Saturday. We open a little earlier, 2:30, something like that.
That's awesome.
But the little guy's like, is it okay if I stay like 10 minutes longer because it's raining outside? And we had just kicked off the thunderstorm inside, and so it sounded like there was rain outside. There was thunder. You could hear it. You could feel it. Outside's 105 degrees and balmy, and he had forgotten.
That's so
he had
cool.
forgotten, and that's the whole yeah. That's the win. That's the win.
So where is Barter and Shake today? Like, what is the big picture of what Barter and Shake is today? Is that where it started?
That's where it started.
Okay.
Yeah. There was also, lovingly, while the two of them still had their quote unquote day jobs, they had a cute little spot called Counterintuitive.
Okay.
And Counterintuitive was, I like to compare it to Sam Fox's Brain for a little while. It's basically a brand incubator. And so for 6 months, they would do, they had that concept called Shanghai Social that was a little bit like Chinatown, and they would redecorate the interior and the exterior and change the cocktail menu, and it would feel like Shanghai Social.
Kind of like Next, Alinia's group.
Yeah, exactly. And then they would, the next one would be Agua Caliente, would be a Mexican racetrack, and it would be agave forward, and there'd be, different music and different feel. And then they would do another one that was, an estate sale from a retired CIA agent in New Orleans. And that kind of like everywhere all at once feel, that unbridled creative watch the hell out, is what, led them to making real brick and mortar permanent concepts. And so today, there's a train concept called Platform 18, which is a 1927 Pullman train car. And it's built as a replica of that. And so the screens in the inside of it imitate movement. And there's speakers underneath the seats so that there's a little bit of a rumble to it. And there's a steam whistle that goes off every hour on the hour. And then the theatricality and the fiction behind that is it's owned by a steel tycoon, totally fictional steel tycoon named Hollis Cotley Pennington.
Dude, you're making me think. So being on the road, I really want to slow down because I have this ability now. This is my first road trip in that camper.
Yeah.
Before this, I would go someplace for a week to 10 days and try to cram 10 interviews into 5 days on site. Now I can learn about these things.
Yeah.
And go check out these things.
Yes.
And if I'm lucky, maybe get the person who created these things on camera talking about how and why they created these things.
Sure.
So I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but it's just inspiring me to go great.
I would love for you to go see the spots.
Yeah, man.
Have some cocktails.
That'd be great. Sorry to derail you. So when you
Derail.
came on, pun not intended. You subliminally injected that into my head.
It was a pow.
So when you came on board, what were they missing? Why are bringing it back to you and what you do? And
without finding a horn and tooting it, it was just operational experience. And like
Perspective.
I had opened the 90 some odd whatever, and some of them were complicated and terrible, and some of them were pretty easy. You open your 30th flower child, you can literally phone it in and go check and make sure it gets done right. But they hadn't had. I had had a front row seat to fixing broken operations, to starting new operations, to amending existing operations to make them a little bit smarter, smoother, faster, more, whatever it would be. And so I think that they looked at me and said, we need your talent, capability, knowledge, and experience to get us where we're going. We need to kind of get organized, get up, knock the dust off, and go. And you don't have to come up with another cocktail if you don't want to, because Jason's got it covered, and he has. Like his knowledge set and capability set as far as cocktails are concerned, it's just eclipses mine by 25 degrees.
That's his unique
ability. It's an innate talent and skill he has. And so, I was like, okay, I'm fine not making the new margarita of the month. I'm okay with that. Like I had to do a lot of that. I'm done. And so, figuring out, okay, what's wrong with this? Well, the scheduling doesn't work because we did this, and this. Well, why don't we try this, and this? Oh, okay. Well, that's going to make that part easier.
So you take 20 years of experience and perspective of doing it from a bunch of different concepts, rolling out, like executing. So like you're taking what they're able to create and you're helping them roll it out.
Correct.
Scale. Got it. Any challenges associated with this new role you have?
Yes.
Where's the pain?
The pain, it's not necessarily pain so much as maybe it's a growing pain, I suppose. You go from having so much support, and by support I mean literal people, dollars, where you can make 2 phone calls and you can say, I need this fixed, and it'll be fixed. And lovingly with Fox doing, the last year I was there, $385 million or whatever. Like you don't even lose sleep unless it's got 5 figures in it.
Right.
And so if they needed a $400 fix of a refrigerator, then get them there tomorrow.
Right.
Expedite it? Yeah, expedite it. Like we're losing product or we're losing this.
Top line takes care of a lot of problems.
Oh my God, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. If the top of the funnel's full, then the bottom line looks really, really great. And so that was not necessarily all the money, but all the people.
Right.
And so, if there was something wrong with payroll or insurance or whatever, there was 5 or 6 people in each department.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they would be there. And so coming aboard, there was one person that was learning about it, and there was me. And I didn't pay any attention to payroll or insurance or workers' comp or anything while I was there. But it's a process, and you learn it. And when you know enough to be dangerous, as Dan Clay used to say, when you know enough to be dangerous, then you make a good decision. And until you know enough to be dangerous, you don't make your decision. And so in the first 18 months, we swapped out just about every kind of like wonky piece of that sweatsuit that we were accidentally wearing. Because we were wearing a sweatsuit that we couldn't even swim in.
It had bricks in it.
It did. The pockets were filled with lead. And so, like the whole, just for funsies, the whole payroll thing was a mess. And so we hired somebody to help us with the benefit part of it, put together a nice package. And we wanted to make sure that package was better than anybody across the street or anybody down the street. And so, for the first time, these kids are getting access to a 401k, and they don't even know what the hell a 401k is or how to use it or whatever. But when they're sitting there at the bar later drinking warm Jameson and having corn chips, and somebody's like, what the fuck do you mean you have a 401k at Undertow? And they're like, yeah, like we just put together this benefits package, and this benefits package is hits. It's awesome.
So what about anybody who's listening to this who doesn't have that level of insurance? With how many tools, like I'm a little confused as to how many different concepts there are underneath. You mentioned it earlier, but I think
it's 5 under.
So it's the gray hen.
4, pardon me.
Platform 18, Undertow,
and the one we're sitting in now, which is our local neighborhood bar called Sunny's Lounge.
Love the vibe of this place, too.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's totally cool.
It's awesome, and we haven't even had it a year yet.
Yeah.
Like,
so that's 4.
That's 4. So there's 5 locations. There's 2 Undertows.
2 Undertows.
But only 4 brands.
Got
Yeah.
it. 4 brands, 5 locations. And some of these concepts are all under the same roof?
Correct. So the down the street, 36th and Indian School, is Grey Hen,
Got it.
Platform 18, and Undertow.
How far is that from here?
When I told you I was leaving,
So like 10 minutes?
no, 2.5,
2.5.
3. We're on 27th. It's at 36th.
Got it.
It's 9 blocks.
Got it. Man. Okay, cool. So, yeah, so relatively small organization providing 401k benefits.
Yeah.
So how do you make that happen?
You just do it. You just do it. You kind of, you use the capability of experience to say that this is what we need to say coming out of, I don't like referencing it, but here it comes. Coming out of COVID, what you need to say is there's a significant and unique difference to working with us. This is why it's better. And offering pet care for 20-somethings who don't have kids, don't have wives, don't have husbands, whatever, but they do have pets. Offering pet care for people, that's a huge victory, and it costs us. It's not very much, right? But it's the thoughtfulness that goes into it, and then to offer like mental health care on top of that. A lot of people need some mental health care, and they're scared it's going to be prohibitively expensive, or they're scared that they're not going to be able to find it or use it or access it or whatever it is. And so to make our value proposition, not only are you going to work at award-winning cocktail bars, and you're going to learn a lot of fun stuff, and we're going to do our best to keep it busy enough that your pockets are full so that you can like make your waffle money and do all your other stuff. We're going to start setting you up for your future, which whether you like it or not, whether it's with us or not, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so
the future is inevitable.
The future is coming, guys. And so, if you want to stick with us for a year and then go somewhere else, then hopefully you're going to give it your all for the year that you're with us. And if you want to know what we think or how we feel about where you're going or who you're working with, like, hey, it's going to be different for you over there. It's going to feel a little less buttoned up, or it's going to feel a little more buttoned up, or it's, like this is between Jason and my director of ops, Courtney, and I, and, even Rich to a certain extent, there's not a lot of people in town we don't know. And so, living here for the last off and on 25, 26 years, most people in most places reach out and ask me questions.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that so long as they're not like, hey, can you help me move my couch? I'm not doing that anymore. But, if someone says, hey, I've got this guy sitting in my bar and he dropped your name, what do you think? And I would say, well, look at these great things and look at these great things. When he was with us, he was excitable and fun and charismatic. I think that I don't think that we offered him blank, 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 blank. And I think he was looking for blank, 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 blank. And off he goes. And, for the most part, who was it that said that I enjoy taking the high road because there's almost never traffic?
Oh, I had no idea.
Okay. Somebody said it. It wasn't me. If you find that nobody said it, I'll say it. But
Own it.
I enjoy taking the high road because there's almost never traffic.
Yeah.
And so like we could open a spite store and be like, you worked for us and you left, go to hell.
Right.
Or we could say, hey man, I wish you the best of luck. Get out there, do the damn thing. Come back and let me know how it goes.
Yeah. But when that happens, almost always, grass is always greener on the other side. And everything's relative. And when you're being taken care of, you sometimes acclimate like a frog in water to what that normal is. And you go other places and you go, shit, I had it good. Or you go to try to do your thing and you fall on your face and you realize, oh man, being an entrepreneur is a bitch. And then you almost always go back. Or
being a consultant is lonely.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if you were taken care of, you're going to send people that way because you were taken care of.
Of course.
When you make it about everybody else,
yeah,
if you help enough other people achieve everything and anything they want, you can have anything and everything you want. Like
for the most part, yeah.
Right. So I think it's important to kind of get that selfishness out of your head and realize that if I just accept that people are going to go, and if I can help expedite that,
sure.
It's what the opposite happens is they end up sticking around. Not everybody.
Or I mean, you tell good people the right things, and then you probably don't tell the wrong people anything.
Right.
You know, it's a little bit like investing.
Yeah.
Like if you know the guy on the street says that he's a bank, give me $100, and you're like, I'm not going to put my $100 into this person. Yeah. But you know, down the street there's a bank, and you're like, I'm going to invest in this bank. Yeah. This is good. So I mean, you have to be cautious with your energy. You have to be cautious with your time. You're not getting any of your time back.
Right.
But a lot of the people in my career that I've spent time with, I hear how successful they are now, and I see how successful they are, and they still, I mean, I'm not paying them to do it, but they still say nice things about me when I'm not around, which is great.
Yeah.
And you know, that's I guess as close as you get to a living, like, that your legacy lives on. You know, Regan's obviously does.
Right. Yeah.
I hope mine does too.
Like that, I get to cement legacy
Mm-hmm.
through sharing stories.
100%.
Like, I've only been doing this for 10 years, and I think like I want to do it for like another 30 years at
Do it.
least, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of archive of stories of, like, it's going to be like a web of how it's all connected, man. That's what gets me super stoked, working on that, building that archive.
I think that it's a limitless. Like, at some point, I was comparing it to like the art of Michelangelo. If you wanted to learn everything there was to know about Michelangelo, you could. No problem. You could learn it all. And if you wanted to drive every road on the United States, you could. No problem. If you wanted to know everything there is about human nature, leadership, understanding, knowledge, educate, you'll never know it all.
Right.
You'll only
learn more.
You'll only learn more.
Yeah.
More is better.
Yeah.
We would equate that to wine.
Yeah.
Because everybody was like, I'll never get it. I'll never
the thing that scared the shit out of
wine.
Me. So
really?
I told you when I was setting up, I was the assistant winemaker. When I figured out I was going to maybe try to sell wine, and I was like, this is overwhelming. I was like, there's no end to this. And I think that you really have to be super passionate about wine to go down that road.
Well, the more you know, especially in wine, and there's several other topics that it applies to, but the more you know, the more you realize you'll never know it all.
Right.
And actually, there's a huge amount of comfort in that. When you realize that you're not supposed to know it all, and you'll never know it all, then anything you learn is good.
That's how I feel about the restaurant industry.
I know.
Because when I started this podcast, I was like, I'm going to crack the codes. I'm going to talk to all the people.
Yeah.
I'm going to get the formula. I'm going to figure out exactly what you need to do. And it's infuriating because the more you learn, the more you realize that it's infinite.
Sure.
And then
100.
Once you figure it out from one perspective, you realize that there's there's infinite perspectives of how to do it. And there is no one way, which is why I don't think I could ever be a consultant, because I don't want to get into like knowing how complex it is. Almost makes me feel like I think there's a time and place for consultants.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to suggest that, but I think that to think that you can solve everybody's problems,
that's naive,
with your unique ability is not possible. And I think it's a matter of playing matchmaker and finding the right consultant.
That's what I was going to say. I think that, you know, after you've circled the U.S. 2 or 3 times in that truck, I feel like you would be the most informed headhunter in the history of restaurant time.
Interesting that you said. So what my unique ability is, what I want to create, and this isn't meant to be a pitch, it's coming up organically. I have a really good 40,000 foot view of what it takes to become successful in the restaurant industry. And I want to help good people connect with good people.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and you need help, reach out to me. I know somebody who can help you. I don't want to do it because I just don't want the liability.
If you're only listening, he did say it with love. I saw it come across. He said, I don't want to do it, but he said it with love.
Like for me, it's the anxiety of tying the liability, just like knowing that I told you to do this and you're going to listen to me.
Yeah.
And if it's not the right thing for you, then I just fucked you up.
Yeah.
And I don't want that.
No.
I don't want that liability.
No.
But I can help based off of, if you give me 2 hours and you sit down with me and you share your life story with me, I can find a lot of points of connection, and I can help you connect with the right people. And I think I want to become a person that literally just helps good people connect with good people and to create a network of mentors and coaches.
I think that the issue with coaching,
I don't know how to do it.
I understand.
For the record.
Hey, listen.
If you're listening to this, I still don't know how to do it, but that's what I want to do.
Well, what you need to do is figure out how to take the pain and distrust out of transaction.
Pain and distrust.
Yeah. When you go and you buy a car, you buy a used car, and you're like, you feel like you got a good deal because the guy said yes to the price that you said. And then immediately you're like, I could have gone lower. I could have gone higher. I could have gone this. I could have done that. I could have done this. Could have done that. And you look at some of the coaches that are on Instagram or Facebook or whatever thing you're watching, and they're like, I had to raise my price because I was too accessible. And that's my price. It's not my worth. It's not my value. It's not my this, my this. But the transactional part of it. So say that I'm like coming to you for coaching, and you're like, yeah, it'll be X number of dollars an hour. And we sit down, and it's a great coaching session, and I feel great about it. 5 months later, I don't have the results that I was looking for, and I feel pain and distrust about the transaction. But if you're going to do something for money as a job, then there has to be a transaction.
Right.
You have to monetize it. You have to cover your waffles in your truck and your tires and your gas and all your other stuff. And so that's where mentorship and coaching kind of falls apart, is that one person's value is different than another person's need. And sometimes they don't align, and sometimes it ruins the relationship, where it'd be great, like, if you could say, hey, I'm going to give you 1 hour, but then you've got 200 people giving you 1 hour, and now you're booked for 6 months
right.
without a dollar to your name.
Right.
And you're eating ramen in a parking lot. Nobody likes that.
Dude, I mean, it's easier said than done, and I do think that there's something that my unique ability, like, I just know that I want it to be something that I desire to do.
Yeah.
And that's something that I do have desire to do. I don't have the attention span to help somebody, like, long term coaching. Like, I want to be like I'm always moving, man.
Correct.
I live in a pickup truck. I have my house attached to the roof of my car, and I'm going across the country.
That's correct.
That's me.
Yeah.
So
you're a realist. You're a pragmatist.
Yeah. So okay, where are we headed, man? In terms of, like, we talked about where you are today. If there's anything else you want to drop, I mean, I kind of feel like we talked a lot about your come up.
No, sure.
I don't want to move too fast beyond where you are today. But where are we headed? Where's the industry going? What are you doing to be ahead of the curve?
Well, I think that's about 6 questions in one chunk. And so paying attention to the industry is one thing, and paying attention to what other people are doing is one thing. And being able to take care of people who are increasingly less able to take care of themselves will continue to be my mantra, my spine, my middle, where people are not being kind to themselves as often as they should be. They're stuck in a job that they don't find fulfillment in, and they don't find money in it. And because they don't have money or fulfillment, then they're sad. And because they're sad, then they drink a 30-pack of Busch Light or something, whatever happens. Or they take it out on their loved ones, and then they lose their loved ones. Or they take it out on their boyfriend and girlfriend, and they lose their boyfriend and girlfriend, and it's worse. And they get in a doom loop a little bit. And so the obvious choice for hospitality is to double down and, like, work harder at it. When people show up and they raise their hand and they say, I'm here to give you some of my hard-earned money, and it's harder to earn it now than it ever has been before, unless you're a landlord, I guess. That's not a dig on Regan. Riggs, it's not a dig on you, buddy. If they show up and they raise their hand and say, I want to give you some of my hard-earned money, you should look at that as an honor. You should look at that as a rarity as opposed to the normal. When people are sitting at your bar, they're hoping that you can take care of them. No one else is taking care of them. They're not taking care of themselves. If they were fine sitting on the couch eating another to-go meal and having, like, a gin on the rocks, then that's where they'd be. And that might be where they are tomorrow. But today they were feeling good enough to come in and talk to you and hopefully make a human-to-human connection, which is also suffering a little bit. Given the fact that everybody's remote and, like, everything can be done online and AI and this, that's too far. We're going to go all the way down that.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is I think that we haven't realized quite yet, kind of like the analogy I like to use is fast food.
Mm-hmm.
We went down this path for the longest time to centralize the food system and make as much food as cheap as possible.
Right.
And then we realize, oh crap, when we do that, bad things happen.
Right.
But I think we're doing the same thing with our mental health now.
Oh my gosh,
like,
yes.
When we want to have as much experience, as much entertainment, as much time to myself as possible, and when you go down that road of aloneness and digital connection, and you realize that, wow, these digital connections I'm making are convenient.
Sure.
I can connect with somebody on the other side of the country,
Mm-hmm.
and there's an infinite subject of things we can connect about. There's something about driving and sitting across
Yeah.
the table from somebody.
Hello.
And having a conversation in person. There's things that are happening that we're not fully aware of yet.
Yeah.
That make us in our mental health skyrocket.
Oh man, alive. That's a great string to pull on that we've accidentally fallen into an all fast food diet as far as connection goes.
Right. So exactly, and I think but until people know that it's bad for them,
Mm-hmm.
until they know that there's something in it for them to do the hard thing, to get in your car, to drive down the street, to go sit around people because this is going to make me feel better.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to see a change, but we're starting to get the science to back it up. To your point, where like learning more about the human psychology and human evolution and just the way we tick, where that is an endless hole that just we can go through forever and more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
We're learning that the way to be happy is by being with people.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a pendulum swinging back. And I think that
I
the
hope
restaurant
so.
industry is going to be there to receive these people.
As an industry, it's going to be the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
It has to be, and
Right.
we have to make sure that it's sharp when it's time to go.
Right.
Like it's not sharp right now.
But I think it's going to be sharp.
It's going to be sharp.
You know why? Or why do you think it will be sharp? You said you're shaking your
It's
head,
gonna have to be sharp, and it's gonna have to be sharp because I think I'm just now formulating this on the fly, but I think that through efforts like yours and similar ones, people are going to begin to understand the importance, and it would end up being a collaboration or a clash between the human industry and the restaurant industry. Because we started calling it the restaurant industry a long time ago, and then we switched it to the service industry. And the service industry it's not at all sexy, right? And the human industry sounds like we're trafficking, which is not what we're doing. Hospitality industry.
What is hospitality? Warmth, generosity, conviviality.
I mean,
being
it's going somewhere as a human where other humans interact with you, and it feels good and genuine and honest.
Right.
And you go there for a purpose, but it's not the purpose that you announce.
Right.
You're going there for a cold beer and a cheeseburger. You're going there for an enchilada and a margarita. But what you're going there to do is to spend time with humans and be taken care of by humans, because you're not getting enough of that.
Yeah.
You're not getting enough vitamin D.
And to see
Vitamin H.
Vitamin H. I like that.
You're not getting enough vitamin H. You got to go.
Sapien.
Yeah,
Vitamin S.
exactly.
So I think the reason why there's hope and why it's going to be sharp
Mm-hmm.
is because as AI gets better and as more people lose their jobs to automation and,
Yeah.
and artificial intelligence,
Yep.
that there's gonna be like, where are they gonna go to get to the one place where humans are still gonna, like the
Yeah.
restaurant industry? I think the hospitality industry, you could argue we're gonna lose some roles to automation. Maybe the back of house might get.
It might get a little streamlined.
But there's still going to be a human there,
Yeah.
to coordinate into, I don't know, unless you just we start creating spaces that are just to help people connect, and there's no human on the other side of that connection in terms of like arranging it.
Sure. I mean, look at the trends in cannabis, and look at the trends in non-alcoholic. Right. There's a bar in LA now that's 100% non-alcoholic. And all the cocktails are not inexpensive because they're still running a business and they're still using premium ingredients and they're still using this and that and the other thing. But everything on there is non-alcoholic because they want to attract that person, that lifestyle, that sect of society that says, I'm tired of going places where I need to be social or I want to be social, and everyone around me is kind of like not so much social as like a train wreck. Like they're chaotic.
Right.
I still enjoy the human connection. I still enjoy the pursuit of real human contact and human interaction. I enjoy all of those things, but I don't drink. So, like, what do you want me to do? I don't want to go to a bar and just sit in the corner and drink a water.
Right.
Like, I'm obfuscated. I'm noticeable. I'm
Do you
taken
drink?
out. Yeah, sure.
It's what are your thoughts on that? Like this, there's almost there's a trend of like non-alcoholic, but there's almost this more overarching aggressive trend of alcohol is evil and that you should just totally stop because it's totally ruining your life and there's no benefit of it. Have you ever seen that trend?
Oh, big time. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. And I think that the loudest proponents of it are, we continue to be a society in love with our silver screen people. Right. And so you look at some of the icons that have gone sober or gone dry a long time ago. You look at Bradley Cooper and his success. You look at Alec Baldwin and whatever, and you look at Robert Downey Jr. and all these people that have been sober for 20 years or whatever it is. And so that's where the conversation starts, right? And I've taken time away for like 60 days or something just to see if I could do it. You've got dry January that a lot of people kind of glom onto. I'm not entirely certain that doing it because it's fashionable is like the right idea. Doing it to take, taking a break from alcohol to assess your health, your mental health without it. Yeah, it's in theory there are detriments to abuse. There are detriments to continued use. There are detriments to this. And there are detriments to use and continued abuse of all kinds of things. But with alcohol specifically, it is a depressant. And so you need to monitor it and you need to be in control. And so part of the non-alcoholic trend that we're seeing is that there are some people that don't drink, and that's fine, and they enjoy cannabis instead, or they're enjoying mushrooms and mushroom chocolates.
I'm sober. I'm like, oh, when was the last time you smoked weed? Oh, yesterday.
Oh, this morning, 10 minutes ago. Yeah. Oh, okay. No, it's sobriety is I think that everybody wants to think it's non-alcohol, but sobriety is
it's a clean mind.
It's clear mind.
Yeah.
It's I'm clean and clear and all this other jazz. But the other thing that we're noticing is that people use the non-alcoholic cocktails in our buildings and non-alcoholic beer. There's so much good non-alcoholic beer right now. I was talking about it earlier, but they use it to pace. And so they'll have one cocktail and then one non-alcoholic cocktail and then a water. And so they can still, if their only concern is control and their only desire is to continue to be a part of the conversation and to socialize, then yes, you have your cocktail and you ease your mind, you ease your nerves, etc. And then you have your second cocktail, which is non-alcoholic, and you're still in the room and you're still walking around and you're still enjoying yourself. You're not out of control. You're not, you feel comfortable. I think comfort, maybe capital C comfort, is something that we need to pay a little bit more attention to. Right now we're like comfort is like an italicized or something. I
think that same word could be replaced with balance.
Balance?
Right. Finding the balance. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what the narrative should be is like, look, like this thing called alcohol can be a lot of fun, but there's an edge to that cliff.
Sure.
And if you go too far, you can fall off of it. And it can go from being a lot of fun to not fun at all.
100%.
And teaching people to find that balance and to have a drink of water between every drink of alcohol and to maybe have a few days in a row where you don't have alcohol.
Yeah, or have, I think it's balance. Yes. Right. I think it's control. I think it's understanding what you like and what you don't like. Right. And if what you like is being around people and feeling uninhibited, then aim for that. And what you don't like is being drunk and like waking up in a trash can or something. Well, then aim away from that.
But I'm kind of a defender of alcohol because I think that there's a lot of kind of like most of the people who are like coaching like or screaming this message are also recruiting people to their like coaching program or like whatever. There's an incentive on the back end of it. I think like a lot of those people that are like saying like, I don't know. My point being is that I think there's this book out there and they make a really great argument. It's called Drunk, How We Sip, Dance, and Stumble Our Way into Society. Okay. And the whole point of the book is to argue that like humans, it's kind of like playing along the lines of like the stoned ape concept, but like there's a lot of belief that humans evolved side by side with substance, and it's because of substance that we got to where we are today. And the argument with alcohol is that prior to 10,000 years ago, we lived in small hunter-gatherer bands of 150, Moore's number. Mm-hmm. But as we got better at living in doing agriculture, we were forced to live with people that exceeded that 150 number threshold. Like that's a number that we can handle that many relationships. Beyond that, it becomes too much. Anxiety kicks in.
Sure.
You don't trust people. So the way that we evolved to cope with that was the byproduct of agriculture, alcohol.
Right.
And that allowed us to coexist and to lower our guard. And alcohol can be an incredible tool to get to know somebody.
Course.
You know, and it can be an incredible tool to bring people together to celebrate. And like when used right, it's great for mental health. You know,
I think so.
So like, I think it's just a matter of like, but some people, I think they think too linearly, and like there's no benefit of alcohol for your health. And it's just like, we're talking about physical health or mental health.
Right. And
you know,
so there's a fun bit of knowledge and information that we learned opening all those True Food Kitchens, right? And so when you look at the highest concentration of octogenarians and centurions, they are all Mediterranean, and they live on this Mediterranean anti-inflammatory diet. It's like the coast of Greece and the coast of southern France, the blue zones, right? And so when you're in and around the blue zones, most everybody has, at some point during the day, a little bit of red wine or a little bit of white wine or whatever it is. And so to be myopic and say that all alcohol is bad no matter how much you have of it or where you have it, etc., is way too far on this side. And then to be like, yeah, I'm going to fill up this pint glass full of Jameson and hit the road. Like that's obviously not okay either. Right. And you know, I'm sitting here as a person who is, you know, helping run $6.5 million in bar sales a year, and that's great. This is a person who, before 2021, we were doing $100 million in alcohol sales, and that was great. Yeah. And it, you know, I don't think that alcohol is going anywhere, and I think that a lot of the goal right now is to find a way to offer people the options to use it as much or as little as they feel comfortable with. And so that's where the non-alcoholic beer trend goes. It's up 400% over prior quarter or whatever it is. And it just gives people the choice. And I think before, maybe 20 years ago, I don't know, you had a choice, and you could either drink or not drink. And you could like buy weed from the guy behind the gas station and like smoke that weed or whatever it would be, and that was illegal and not okay. And now there's another choice. You don't like drinking because you don't like how it makes you feel. Well, there's edibles, and there's, you know, vapes, and there's this and there's that, and maybe this is more mellow and more your speed. Maybe you're gonna, you know, do some like microdosing of mushrooms, and that's your speed. Maybe you're gonna drink non-alcoholic cocktails and non-alcoholic beer, and maybe the high that you get is from running 10 miles a day. There's choices and there's options, and you know, I'm in this industry not because I'm like, you drink that drink or I'll kill you.
Humans are chemical junkies, whether it's
so,
produced from their own body or from
we're our own pharmacy most of the time too. Sure. Yeah,
it's part of our nature, and history shows that.
Yeah,
there's no denying it.
Yeah,
I've really loved today's conversation, man. And I want to respect your time. I want to ask a couple more questions I ask all my guests before we say goodbye. The mission statement is to inspire, empower, and transform the industry. Mm-hmm. So along that lines, how have you personally transformed? Who are you today versus the man you were when you got started in this industry?
I know for a fact that I am far more patient with certain things than I would have been. I think that working in the restaurant industry and working in the hospitality industry, you begin to understand and appreciate your fellow person a lot faster and a lot deeper than other people do. And you can tell the people that have versus the people that haven't. And, you know, there's that funny thing about, you know, everybody should have to spend 6 months in the service industry. It should be a tour of duty so that you understand this and that. Maybe people should just stop being assholes. It's kind of like the faster way to do it. I think that's the person that I've become. I enjoy through knowledge and experience being able to inspire people. And I think that you can only inspire people through knowledge and experience if you have, wait for it, knowledge and experience. Yeah. And the only way that you get experience is by doing things. What did the guy say? Doing things. Education is doing things that you want to do, and experience is doing things you don't want to do.
Yeah, I like that.
Or surviving things.
I do think that this, how we're going to change the world, is what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Is educating people, inspiring people, making people be better version, not just inside the industry, but educating the consumer. Yeah, of saying cut the shit. Yeah,
you can't throw your glass across the bar top. Right, you can't. You can't reach across the bar top at a bartender, male, female. Otherwise, you can't do that. What are you doing?
Right, right. So, what's one thing about your business's values, a process, a system that's truly, this truly makes you unstoppable?
Oh God, unstoppable.
Yeah.
One thing about our business or this business,
Anything.
Give me a little more
information. It could be a
information.
process. It could be
Okay.
a system. It could be a value. Something about you or your businesses that makes you truly unstoppable.
I mean, I hate to lean on it so immediately, but I think it's the combination of just the right nerds. I think it's the combination of just the right nerds to be willing to do the things that people can't do or won't do. And so when you are willing to actually put, your guest service first, and like to make them excited about being in a train or in a boat or in a great neighborhood bar, or to make them excited about that, you put that first, then you win. You put, if you're appealing to cocktail nerds and you put out great cocktails and they just scratch their heads how you did it, like I think that's the thing that will make us unstoppable. Like if we can maintain, and we're at a little bit of a tipping point now where you kind of grow either from one market to two markets, or you grow from a certain top line to a more healthy top line where you accidentally sacrifice your focus from the future to the bottom line. And it's tough.
Yeah.
And they say that it's from location 1 to location 2, location 5 to location 8, and then location 10 to location 20, right? And so we really have 3 locations, but we have 4 concepts. We have 5 places, yada yada, and each one behaves differently, and each one is a delicate flower, and trying to summon the energy to make that bigger for a more exciting or serious financial gain. It's a tightrope walk.
Yeah. Is there such thing as being too big?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think you're too big when you don't know what's going on. And that doesn't have to be an actual size. I think it has to do with people's level of desired comprehension or desired attention. If something is going on and you don't have any idea like what's going on, and it's a big thing, then that's a problem. You're too big. Like if you own 50 restaurants and you don't know the hostess's name, that's okay. If you don't know the general manager's name, that's probably not okay.
Right.
If you know that so and so is struggling with this, and this, and you're a company our size, then not only do we know that, but we've already sent that person flowers.
Right.
We've already covered her shift. We've already done this. We've already done that. We sent a leaf blower to a random guy we met at James Beard House. Like we are trying desperately to do small acts of love in a big way, and hoping that will create the magnetism that we need to bring the right people. And with those people we can grow, and then we can bring the right people and we can grow, and we bring the right people and we can grow. But the end all be all, I think you're doing the Lord's work by making more people aware of just how much wisdom lives between the kitchen and the floor in most of the restaurants that these people go to, and they don't know.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think we don't realize how intelligent the most successful restaurateur, like to be good at this, to be the best at this in such a big competitive industry.
Yeah.
Those people have so much to share with the next generation.
Oh man, for sure.
And everybody's talking to the tech nerds of the world, which they have something to share too. But I feel like the lessons, like the human lessons, are here in this industry. I have one more question.
Is it the question?
It's the
man, I'm drawing a blank though.
No, you're not calling somebody out yet. There's one more question, and then we're gonna have you call somebody. So if you got the news, you'd be leaving this world tomorrow. All the memories of you, your work in your restaurants or your bars would be lost with your departure, with the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom you could leave behind for the good of humanity and your legacy. What are those 3 pieces of wisdom? That's a tough one right there.
That's harder than the name.
I know.
So my legacy is boiled down into 3 points, basically. Yep. The first one comes pretty easy. I would want everybody to remember that I was able to make them laugh.
1.
And I mean, it goes hand in hand. The second one is that I was able to inspire them to be a little bit better, 3 degrees better or 10 degrees better than they were yesterday. Better is better is what I would say. And then this is I look up to the right when I'm thinking, I suppose. And the last is to remember that everything is good, even the bad, and everything goes on the wheel.
I love it, man. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much. We are going to have you call somebody out. So
I don't have anybody in my brain because I already got sidetracked and I'm trying to get you to Healdsburg.
Well, I mean, I'll take anybody. It doesn't have to be in the state. It doesn't have to be in the city.
No, I want to get you to Healdsburg so that you find 5 or 6 other people and you spend a month in Sonoma.
And it doesn't have to be on the air.
Okay.
Honestly, as long as I can point back to say somebody
Perfect.
told me to talk to you. If you want it to be private, that's totally cool. I just know this. I don't want to be the one to decide who to make an example.
So I'll shout out on the air Frank Giacomini.
Okay.
And I'll spell that for you because it's Giacomini.
It's like Cacciatore.
It is like Cacciatore.
Go for it.
Giacomini. Giacomini.
Got it.
Awesome. I think he's SVP of autograph for Hyatt.
Okay.
He's out of San Francisco.
Awesome. Frank, look out. I'm coming after you. I'd love to get you on the show. And how can we connect with you? Or do you have more people you want to call out?
No, I'll keep calling them until you run out of time. But
all right, man.
What kind of connection do you need?
Honestly, I really try to look for, it is an entrepreneurial restaurateur interview. Mm-hmm. I do like getting the people the restaurateurs surround themselves with.
Sure.
Operations, marketing sometimes. My core content, my core is like people at the top of the hierarchy.
Yeah. Oh, no, I meant what kind of contact information do you need from me?
Oh.
Yeah.
That was embarrassing.
You can edit it out. It's your show.
You're right. Jared, you know what to do. He's at the editor.
Hi, Jared.
Badass. Thank you, Jared. Whatever you're willing to give, I guess Instagram, if that's like
sure. I pay attention to the Instagram, but I don't necessarily participate in the Instagram. So I mean, I think it's at Matt Snapp. I think my Instagram.
I think it's just at Matt, like one T,
two P's. Yeah, that's been following me since birth.
Nice.
It was supposed to be the Evangelist, but my mom didn't want everybody to think she named me after the Evangelist. So she took the T out. And so they're like, your name is Matt Hugh? It's Mathew. And then my last name is Snapp, Snapp. So
cool
it's one T, two P's.
Your mom did well.
Thank you.
Man, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story, your knowledge, your mentorship. This is when I say there is no questioning. Matt Snapp, you are unstoppable.
Hey, thank you.
Cheers.